Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Pennyworth. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I love the opening where we just have, Dave Boy and Alfie passed out, but then there's a knock at the door, and his mom is like, "You don't move a muscle." She's locked and loaded, but it turns out it's Thomas, Martha, and Lucius, and she's like, basically, like, if they weren't your friends, I would have kicked them out by now. So it's like, don't make him move or whatever, or I'm going to kind of gut you. Like, who wants tea? And everyone kind of raises their hands. So they kind of, and I also love her being like, no whispering. So they fill Alfie in. It's like, well, we had 48 hours. That was yesterday. So now we actually have 24 hours. We have until until 4 to make our decision. And it's like, well, fuck. It's like, fuck. And then it's like, well, just so you don't accuse me of hiding things, they're saying that everything is going to go down. She's like, I thought you said, what? I know. First, it's like language. And he was like, you say fuck. And she's like, not in company. Which I love their back and forth. But obviously Alfie's like signing up to go along with this mission, which she was reluctant. It's like, no, you said it yourself. It's a suicide mission. He's like, yeah, without me. It's like, I don't worry. It's going to be a piece of cake. So obviously doing what he does, trying to say things that would make his mom not worry. But for him, it's like, if I can help in any shape or form. I guess for him, it's also like, I help kind of set this in motion because I help free Salt. So I've got to make up for a lot of stuff. It's time for me to just do the right thing. I want to do the right thing. I want to fight for this country. I want to, make it a better place. What he was saying to Baza last episode, do some good, So I think all that's kind of driving him. And I love that, like, Dave Boy just comes out of it nowhere. It's like, oh, you had tea. And it's like, oh, do you have any more of those? Like, it was something specific. And she's like, you had them all yesterday, you freaking, you damn sod, or something like that. You greedy sod. And he's like, what's up with her? It's like, well, they've got a plan they want us to go on to, and Mom's not too happy about it. He's like, oh, of course. You bastards dragging us into something else. I love that he's like, literally this entire conversation, he was out the entire time, and he wakes up at the last second and be like, oh, okay. Trying to make his mom feel better by being like, I will come back. Everything's going to be okay, Because she's like, you're trying to leave me too. Like, you're trying to leave me all alone in this world. And he's like, that's not going to be the case. I'm going to come back. It's all going to work out. And, with that, everyone's kind of, having their moments, kind of like, we have like Lucius, Dave Boy, and Aziz sitting down cheering, because it's like, does any of you have any, family or anyone you spend time with? For Lucius, he's like, they're far away, which I'm wondering, does he, once again, I don't know what his family dynamic typically is, because I think, obviously, based on Batwoman, he has one son at least. I don't know if Luke has any other siblings. Because once again, I'm going by his Telltale Batman. He has a daughter named Stephanie, but that might have just been a Telltale Batman thing. I think she has a little brother, Luke. In that. So I don't know if he has like an older sister or something. It's never come up in Batwoman, so that's why I don't know. But at the very least, I'm assuming he's got like a wife and everything back home. So whether he has a kid or kids at this point in time is unclear, depending on where they want to start his story off in this continuity. But Dave Boy's like, oh yeah, like all my friends, anyone I care about is dead. So and it's like, well, to new friends, they're cheering, and it's like, all right. Then you've got Martha and Thomas. Thomas like, Martha, will you marry me? She's like, no. And he's like, come on. It's like, she's like, you're just asking me. He's like, well, before I was just asking. Well, now I'm asking again, and he's like, damn it, woman, it's not just that, it's also because I love you. And she's like, that's a good enough reason. And it's just kind of like, she's kind of still reluctant to say yes. And I love the whole thing of like, basically like, we're about to go on a suicide mission. If I die, don't you want to be able to tell my son, like, my child, something good about me? And if we don't, then all you're going to be able to tell our child is that I asked you to marry me and you said meh. And she's like, well, actually, that's pretty morbid. So he's like, is that a yes? And she's like, well, it's not a no. He's like, it's progress. And I love the whole thing of like, yeah, it's like, this isn't, she's like, because she was like, I guess I love you too. He's like, you guess? She's like, I don't know. Like, I thought love would be more fun. He's like, right? I bet it would be fun more too. Now it's more irritating, right? Yeah, irritating. It's like I said, they have their weird relationship, their ups and their downs, but it's a weird, sweet relationship regardless. It's just an interesting, complicated one. So I love that. I love Alfie going to visit Sandy, and I love the fact is he throws it at a window and it ends up being Sid's window. He's like, sorry about that, Sid, wrong window. And he was like, basically, what the fuck are you doing? It's the middle of the night. And hey, Sandy, tell him to fuck off. And they had their moments where it's, he's playing a little coy and stuff like that. And he even says this line of like, gotta go on a mission tomorrow, might not make it. I forgot the entirety of it. I'm butchering it, but she's like, oh yeah, you say that line you said that line to me multiple times, Alfie, it never works. He's like, it's a good line. It is a good line, and it is true this time. But I thought it was sweet. He was like, I love you too much to basically break her heart type of situation. Because for him, it's like, if we got together, because he's not like, I'm going to end up leaving you initially, so that's why I love you too much to put you through that. Because for him, it's like, I'd be in love with you, I'd be happy to get married, have kids and everything, but eventually down the road I just end up leaving you, and I would feel so much shame for the rest of my life for hurting you like that. So that's why he kind of keeps his distance. So Alfred's a complicated person in that regard, because I think for him it's just like, I'm going to hurt you regardless. I'd rather do it now hurting you rather than hurting you later on down the road, especially if we have a family together and everything. But I also love Sis still saying, tell him to fuck off, and she's like, shut up, Dad. So they had their moments and everything, and she's like, sooner you're going to go off and end up dying sooner or later. And he's like, well, not unless your animal urgings end up killing me first, saying like, at least, if I do go off and die, like, we bunkered this last time. She's like, why do you have to call it that? Why not make love? She's like, you're right. We made love, So it's kind of a, once again, the final hours for a lot of stuff. I love that while they're making their own plans and stuff like that, you have Bet and Peg like coming up with their own plan with Vicky. I love the whole thing of like talking to Salt and everything. And it's like, tell him you're wet for him, or you're getting wet thinking about him or something. And she's like, what? Tell him you're getting wet thinking about him. And Kate's over there like laughing about it a little bit. And it's like, dude, it's just, this is the weirdest thing. And he's just like, oh, it's not, basically he's like, ooh, it's nice to know that I do that to you. It's kind of like that phrasing. He says it in such a douchey way, like almost like, oh, like, ooh, like, it's no sexy talk. It's almost like, thanks for confirming that I do that to you. Like, it was so, like, robotic in its own, it's like, oh, you sound like such a douche doing that. So, nevertheless, so they've got their plans. It's like, oh, Salt's like, you come to me. So they've got that set in motion. And then Alfred and the others are rolling up because the plan is to, pretend like, hey, I'm with the CIA and I'm returning Lucius Fox to you, because this way they get to the device that contains Stormcloud. So they make their way in. Obviously, Dave Boy complaining the entire time, like, I could be, tell him, oh, go to America. He's like, the fact of the matter is, I think he even said, like, I could be in Gotham right now doing this and that. And, like, Alfred's like, how many times do I have to apologize? It's like, Dave Boy's never going to let that go. So they go in, like, things kind of go smoothly. I love when they actually get to the scientist and everything. It's a situation of, Lucius is almost telling them off, but it's like, dude, we kind of got to go. He's like, right. Because it's like, scientists, we're supposed to be doing good, helpful people, not killing people. We're scientists. But they're trying to figure out, like, obviously that's the only version of Stormcloud, because they wouldn't have had time to make any others. So I love that it's like, well, Lucius is handling it delicate, and then Alfred pulls out like a 10 box with some stuff in it, and Lucius is like, really? That's all we're putting in, just in some tin boxes? Like, this thing's cracked. It could kill everyone in a 5-mile radius. And he's like, well, there's that. So, I love Thomas being like, yeah, this wasn't the CIA. This was me alone. So, and you have, like, I think Alfred being like, what, you want a receipt or something? Come on, let's go. And just when they were, like, a few steps away is when, Salt found out, which also, he had that lady like button up his jacket, and then she messed up on it or wasn't doing it fast enough, and he ends up slapping her, and I'm like, well, you're such a dick, you're making her do it for you, and then when she doesn't do it well enough or whatever, you slap her. It's like, you're such an asshole. But sadly, the squad didn't get out of there in time, so Salt proceeds to have them beat the crap up and then thrown in cells, and ends up, calling Aziz. It's like, all 4 of us are okay, but the jig is up. And so it's like, all right, I appreciate your attempt, so I'm going to let it slide. And I have to give me a response now, but I'll be expecting your surrender before the deadline. So drags Alfie away, and Alfie's, because obviously Salt's trying to make it seem like the way, like, oh, what he's doing. Once again, it's like, it's so weird that I guess in his mind, it's like, I'm doing the best. Like, if we have to basically rule with an iron fist, if we have to be a little rough, if we have to be kind of barbaric, then so be it. I'm building a stronger England by doing that, I guess. I don't know. It's weird. I'm surprised he even has those motives. Like, because I just chalked it up to, oh, I'm a self... Like, because like I said, I just never really understood why he did what he did. But I guess in his own way, it's like, I'm going to take England further than, like, you know, because I think for him, that's why he wanted Harwood out of the way, because Harwood would never go far enough. He didn't rule absolutely with an iron hand. Like, he would not backhand when needed to be. Like, he's, you know, it's like, I can be barbaric when I need to be, and that's kind of the way we need to. That's how we get stronger. That's how we show our strength. So, I guess, like, Harwood wasn't as virile as he wanted him to be, or rather would want England to be. I guess that's kind of his justification. But, Alfred, you know, meets with his dad, and it's like, wait, you're alive this entire time. It's like, at first he's thinking it's a dream, but it's like, wait, you're alive. And for Alfred, it's a thing of, you know, Mom grieved you. She'd go to your grave every day. It's like, yeah, but there's nothing in it. She thought you were ashes, but now I find out the entire time you've been alive. You know, it's like, Mom could forgive you for everything. She just wanted to see it. And it's like, but, you know, it's like, but if you were in my shoes, would you want your wife to see you like this? He was like, no, but I'd hope that she'd want to see me, and Mom does want to see you. I mean, you know what they're about to do, right? They're going to drop this bomb, and it's going to kill her, it's going to kill me. But for him, it's like, I am willing to kill everyone else's family, what they hold close and dear. If I'm not willing to make that same sacrifice, you know, it's only fair. It's kind of his mindset, which obviously Alfred's like, you've basically lost your entire damn mind. Like, you're a selfish prick because you're putting all this before, like, your family and everything. Like, there's so many people that are going to die because of this, even your own family. And it's like, you could have come to us at any point in time, but you didn't. You stayed hidden here the entire time. You're okay with what's going to go down. And obviously, you know, it's like telling everyone else about, man, it's crazy. Your dad's still alive. He's like, yeah, that's got to be messing with your head a lot. But then Lucius brings up something really interesting. It's like, why did your dad want to see you? It's like, he knew that what kind of man his son is, so he knew what response you'd have. It's like, for Salt to do that, he's not a sentimental person. He doesn't do anything without reason. So that is the question of, why did he do that? And then later on, he's talking to Alfie's dad about, you know, it's like, oh, you need to make this sacrifice, and you're a great brave man to want to do this. And you're like, what's that all about? Like, what is he about to do? And so it begs the question, like, what's going on that front, you know? So I have my thoughts about it. Really quickly, circling back, like, you have Bet and Peg showing up, and I love that, like, the whole thing of the moment they get to the guard because they're trying to get to the women's prison, and then Bet slits that lady's throat, and Vicky screams, ah! Peg slaps her. Get a hold of yourself, woman. And it's like, she just saw someone getting murdered in front of her. You guys keep threatening to murder her, so of course she's going to freak out, but she's slapping her to be like, get a hold of yourself. What the hell is wrong with you? It's like, she has every right to be freaking out right now. But when it's all said and done, they make their way to Francis, and it's like, oh, don't worry, we're here to save you. Because, like, well, I think it was complicated terms the last time they saw, well, at least in the confines of the show, the last time they saw each other, I believe, was when they were all arrested at the end of season 1. I believe that's the last time they were all together. Granted, once again, we don't know, like, what went down in that time skip when the Ravens were kind of taking control and stuff like that. We don't know what their circumstances were. But I love the whole thing of, like, oh, this is Vicky, and Vicky says hi, and Francis is like, hi, Vicky. So it's like, yeah, we're going to get you out of here. They're dodging, trying to find her. I just thought, because she was also trying to pass on the message, and, like, apparently, like, she fumbled it a little, Peg fumbled it a little bit, and Bet kind of corrected her, and it's like, oh, this one's got the brain of an elephant, kind of never forgets, right? Which I'm wondering, where does that come from? Is that just because legitimately elephants never do forget, just because of the way their brain works? I don't know. I've heard that phrasing. In particular, what was it? I think one of the first times I heard that phrasing was actually a Childish Gambino song. It was that Freaks and Geeks song from years ago. Like, an elephant never forgets, so my dick remembers everything. Like, that line just kind of correlated in my head. I was like, right, that's actually one of the first times I ever heard that phrase. Elephant never forgets. Regardless, tangents and all that. But I was hoping, I was like, oh, please. And they end up in the sales where everyone is. I'm like, yeah! It's like, this is the first time Alfie and Bet have been in the same scene together. I'm like, yeah! And she's like, wait a minute, I know. And he was like, Bet? And she's like, I know you. You're Esme's guy. What's your name again? Alfie, right? Alfie. And it's like, hey, it's Dave. And she doesn't know their name, but Dave Boy. Hey, Thomas, once again, not knowing his name, but also, hey, Lucia, actually, I don't know you. It's like, hey, you remember him? This is Esme's guy. Oh, he's kind of a good chap. And it's like, dude, it's like, okay, could you let us out of here? And it's like, oh, thanks and everything. It's just like, this moment they're having, I'm like, dude, this is so dope. I'm like, I was hoping they stay together the entire time, but sadly they don't. I thought it was sweet them kind of catching up, because initially it's like, we're just going to get out of here. Also, like, Dave Boy being like, oh, hi, Mrs. Gaunt, because it's like, oh, yeah, the work you did on me last time was really good. She's like, oh, I'm glad, because it's like, right, the last time was when he was trying to assassinate her, and he ended up getting shot, and she actually kind of kept him alive, so there's that. So I was like, right, that's the last time you two saw each other. That's pretty dope. But it's like, they want nothing to do with it, but it's like, he's like, what would Esme say in this situation? Because they don't have any guns. And so Bet stays behind. She's like, so what's new in your life? And it's like, she's like, well, I found, the love of my life. And he's like, I wish I could could say the same. And she's like, don't worry about it. You got height. You got a good a head of hair and everything. And she ends up pistol whipping a guy and getting him a gun. And it's like, hey. So it's like, hey, okay, well, now you're armed. And she's like, come here. And I'm like, they hug and everything. And I was like, yeah! I was legitimately happy. I'm smiling right now talking about it, because I love that dynamic. Just think about where they started off at. They'd be like, come here. Frenemies, hugging it out. Well, good luck to you. Good luck to you too. And then they go to separate ways. Obviously, they take Vicky to the penthouse suite, which they're waiting, because I'm assuming Salt's going to come there. I'm sure they're going to work him over, maybe potentially. I'm assuming Salt's going to get it hard. Bet and them can be very well, because it's also, because I don't think they never really expressly said it to Frances, so I don't know if she knows that Harwood's dead. Because she might be believing, like, the news that, like, oh, he died of a heart attack or something like that. All they said was, like, he was apologetic about where things was. You were his love. You were someone very dear to him. But that's about it. So we don't know, like, if she knows that he's dead. But, so they're waiting in the penthouse for, I guess, Salt to show up so they can strike. But at the same time, Salt's got everyone lined up, and it's like, oh, like, I could use you for this, and it's like, it gets to Dave Boy. He's like, wait, you didn't tell me what I'd be used for. He's like, soldiering. He's like, nah, but if it was pissing on your mom, no, I could do that. And he spits on his hand and slaps the shit out of Dave Boy. But then you have Alfred's dad being like, oh, come here, son. Do you think your mom would really forgive me? And it's like, I do still love her, and I love you too. There's a gun in my left pocket. And proceeds to spray everyone down. At the same time, there's the whole situation where, going back a little bit, after finding out about what happened to their failed mission, Aziz is kind of like, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to send the queen away. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then I'm going to surrender. Him and the queen had their final moment, and she's like, I wish things were different then. He's like, yes, I know. And it's like, they kiss. So it's like, there could have been something there, but if circumstances were different, maybe it's like, I'm curious, like, if things end positively, will there be something on that front or not? But obviously, he gets the call at the end for Alfie being like, Aziz, you won't guess what happened, or something like that. So, and they're leaving and escaping with Alfred's dad. Now, that's where I'm kind of drawing the thing where I'm thinking this is all a setup. I think this is still a ploy, in the sense of Alfred's dad still has his own part to play. Either he's unaware that he's playing a part, like maybe he was, but it's like, once again, why would he go to the trouble of making Alfie be around his dad? It's like, he's not sentimental, like, it's part of a plan. So it might be a thing of he's making Alfred's dad think, hey, like, I'm able to convince my son, or hey, I'm working with my son. The question is whether or not he's in the know about what Salt really has planned. Because I think either he does have another device installed in Alfred's dad's wheelchair and everything, and set up his respirator, stuff like that. Maybe there's one set up in there, because I would assume Alfie had looked inside, so either they replaced it with a fake, or maybe there's there's something going on here, because the way he was getting Alfred's dad to say, like, are you prepared? Oh, you're making a great sacrifice. He is someone that he made it clear, like, I'm determined. So I don't see him just quickly changing his mind like that. So it could be a thing of, I need to be in the heart of the city anyway to make this happen. Like I said, I still wonder if it has anything to do with Harwood's funeral. You wanted to make it public. It's like, I was going to be on this side of the city. He's like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like, I think he wanted Harwood's body returned so he can, because they need someone to be like the face of this thing. So I guess it's like for him to come out of this positive, because if things go, if Stormcloud erupts and everything, he'll come out looking positive, because the only people who will know that he's involved will be like, I think everyone else that would be involved, he'd be able to shut up. So it looks like I come out looking like the hero, because I was able to have England rise up after the terrible Stormcloud thing was released, either blaming it on the League or something. I have no idea. Like I said, I don't know what's going through that dude's mind, but it's not over. Because the next episode is the season finale, and like things are semi-resolved, but I'm like, there's still so much that could go wrong. I mean, we saw how everything obviously went, pear-shaped last season in the last episode, and just like how that all played out. So I still, like, we can't forget who Alfred's dad is, that he is someone that believes in this. Yes, he loves his wife and Alfie, but it's still like he is someone that believes wholeheartedly in this call. So I'm like, I just don't know what to make of that. So we'll have to wait and see what goes down in the season finale. Like, I didn't check the promos, but I believe it to be the season finale. Last season was 10 episodes. Last time I checked, I didn't see anything past 10 episodes, so I'm under the assumption next week's the season finale. But I'm so interested to see where this goes, because there's so many different routes of how this can go. Like, I still get the feeling like it's going to have kind of a sad ending, very much like season 1's finale. I think things are going to be a little hopeful in certain regards, but sad in others. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see what happens. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.